Namaste everyone, and welcome to another of our Friday afternoon practices. The year's winding down and so is the practice, so join me today for a nice slow deepening, just time and space to be with the body, with the breath and with each other. So without further ado, let's start with that familiar warm up. Let's let the body and the mind settle into the moment and know where we are right now, just rubbing them palms. And then I invite you to place one hand on your chest and one hand on your abdomen. Let's just take a few breaths, just feel into the body, to land in the here and now. Let go of the day thus far. Just notice the feeling of the breath. Inviting those shoulder blades to relax and soften, giving permission for the breath to land slow and deep. And with your final breath, just feeling a wave as your lower abdomen, just inviting the breath to breathe into the belly. It took a while for me to reach a point in my practice where the breath loosened and softened and sank. Give permission for that wave to rise from deep in the bottom of the ocean right the way to the top, to the chest, and all the way back down. Okay then, so let's start as ever really flexing. And at this point we're just relaxing the shoulders, we're relaxing the wrists, we're just gently opening up, flexing the wrists, the fingers, giving ourselves some full mobility of these joints. And again, we can sink. Those that are in a chair can feel the sits bones, the soles of the feet. Those of us standing, feeling all four corners of your feet, letting the knees be nice and soft. We can sink that tailbone down a bit. We're getting our body ready for that open state of being, that present state of being. Give the wrists a bit of a shake through the shoulders. Right, let's go onto moving and opening up these shoulders. Now you can do this with your hands. You know where we've had that lung point? We talked about this, where the collarbone meets the shoulder's nest. There's a little pocket, and just underneath that, 2 fingers, there's an immune point, and we can breathe in and open this point. Normally we are just doing the upper arm movements. This is what we're used to doing, but we can bring some more awareness to the shoulders, still letting the tops of the shoulders lead the movement. So the rest of the arms are just following. It just brings a bit of opening to the chest, a bit more conscious awareness of the chest, and a bit of awareness of stimulation through them immune points. Perfect for this time of year. And backwards just to reset. Oh, and hopefully you're feeling a nice little loosening, starting to relax down the shoulders. And what we'll do is we'll open them up a bit more with stork spreads its feathers, so scooping round. And exhale to stand up, to release. That exhale, you can imagine it as a release of any tension or tightness just washing down. You can imagine the backs of the shoulders loosening, softening, like a wave of relaxation just washes down, releasing anything you're holding, consciously, unconsciously. I'm aware I've got a lot more tightness in the shoulders, whether that's the winter, whether that's carrying more. And just leaning into that, giving it time and space to just soften and relax. Nothing to change or fix, just breathing into the body, asking the body what it needs, and starting to trust more in that. And that's what QiGong has been for me, a journey. Just awareness, connecting back in with the body, listening, finding what feels good. Okay, so let's open the neck a little bit with owl turns its head. And again, this offers us the opportunity to just open into the shoulders. So for those unfamiliar, we've got our hands in front, and we let the thumb lead those hands out to the sides, and then maintaining a lift from the tailbone right the way to the crown. We're just turning to look over that shoulder, not around to behind us, just to our side and back. And this is just opening the neck, the spine. For those with a bit more of an active practice, you can come to awareness of your lower dantian, that tailbone sinking down, that wuju position, setting our body open for our Ben Gong. Okay, so let's go to our hips and our waist, and we can just start by imagining the legs are in concrete, and this is just to open the side body so you can really accentuate that movement, keeping the hips nice and centered. And this is just to open up around what we've got here is called the belt channel. So we've got meridians that flow up and down right the way through the body. That will complete that circle and then back. And then we've got a belt channel which kind of cinches everything right the way around our core. And for me, QiGong has been a real gift to start from the core, from the center, and work outwards. And with this, we're inviting in them spirals, just like DNA, just like plants and trees, going with the natural order of things, just inviting the body to spiral and move a bit. So this time we're going to open with the hips, and you can imagine that spiraling coming right the way up from the soles of the feet or the sits bones, right the way up the body. And again, trying to keep the head more still this time, so it's the hips and the waist that are doing more of the turning, the rest of the body just gently following along, still aware of the breath. Lovely. In Chinese medicine they say if there's one movement to do each day, it's this one, and this is one from our practices that we've done quite plentifully. It's a tray of teacups. So we can do the one to the sides, but today we're going to focus on two hands pointing behind us, and this is one that we've done a few times where we go from the top right for you, around, bottom left, bottom right, to the top left. So what you're doing is we're crossing the arms at this point, they face the abdomen, face away, face above, and what we're doing is we're keeping the shoulders nice and soft. We're trying to keep them palms as if we've got a cup in them, a tray of teacups. Imagine you've got a teacup in each palm, so you're trying to keep them up and level, and that'll help you. Just, it's the movement, the spiraling of the waist and of the wrists that are helping you to keep that teacup level. And then we'll go the opposite way just when you find your flow. So again, fingers face abdomen, away, behind. So you're going from the top to the bottom corners. You can imagine it like that, going through a rectangle. Away, behind, face away, abdomen, away, behind. And it's just a way to bring some spiraling and openness right the way through the whole body, but especially the upper body, where we can store a lot of tension and tightness, and also those internal organs are all in this upper torso. So at this point you can take the hands and just let them soften down to the bottom corners of the room. Again, just inviting them shoulders to soften and relax. We're never forcing in QiGong. Like with yoga, we create the stretch, the position, and then we breathe and we let the breath, the body, gravity do the work. We let that release with time, with intention and attention. Lovely. So when you're ready, you can give that a full shake. Let's just wake up. Those that are seated, you don't necessarily have to do this, but you can wake up to the knees just with some gentle circles. Feet are slightly wider than shoulder width for this one, but as you can see, it's just gentle circles just to open up, bring awareness to them knee joints. So with this warm up, all we're doing is we're just coming to full awareness of our body, and we're giving it full permission to flex to the fullness of its range of motion. This one is especially nice if you're not wearing shoes, to really flex the toes, really widen the toes and shake. At the minute my foot's healing quite nicely, but it still feels more supportive in shoes, so it's finding what's right for the body in the here and the now. Lovely. Give it a good shake. So hopefully we're a bit warmer with the whole body. Those that are doing the seated practice can slightly tweak and change this as we've been practicing. We're going back to our Ben Gong. We're turning to winter. We're going back to the foundation. We're going back to our roots. And so this practice is designed to just ground and settle into that, a bit more of a slow, gentle, stiller practice, just like nature outside. So we'll start as ever in our Wuji. In fact, let's just open up your spine, because this is one people seem to like a lot. Just picking the cherries again. This one just opens up the vertebrae in the spine, especially if we're resting more, we're sitting more, watching them Christmas films. This one, imagine anchoring the arm that your hips, the arm of this side, imagine your hip anchoring down. So there's a bit of an opposition line between the hands and the hip, just to give you a bit of opening into the side body. And we can take out any more tension or tightness in the spine with just some twists. Now usually we do knocking on the door of life, but today you can do this from a wide stance or from seated, and it's just a gentle turn from this point to just turn and look behind. So if you're seated, you can lean forward, or standing you can lean forward. You can do this in a slightly wider stance. We call this Mabu, which is the horse stance. So we're standing shoulder width, and then you just shuffle your feet out one, onto your heels, onto your feet and back. So you kind of almost double the width, but it just feels comfortable. And all we're doing, whether seated or standing, we're imagining a pole going right the way through, and that pole is staying fixed in space. So it's just turning sideways, that pole, but it's not moving this way and that. It's staying nice and centered, and we're just slightly turning. Imagine turning from the core, just to imagine it's like a towel ringing through the spine, and the opposite way. And all we're doing is just inviting a twist, an opening in the spine, and a position in a way it's not necessarily normally, but the spine can open to the front and back, as well as to the sides. So that one can be quite nice to just wring out any tension or tightness we're carrying in the back and in the spine. You can also open the front and back of the spine. So we'll finish with some spinal cord breathing to finish the stretches before we go into the practice. This one is key, is valuable for activating our parasympathetic, our rest digest phase. I'm going to do some reading into how this is linked to the vagus nerve. There's a lot of work at the minute and awareness around the spine and how certain movement, certain breath work is starting to activate the rest digest parasympathetic system. So these ancient methods that have been practiced for thousands of years, science is starting to show practically how they turn on and off some signals in the body, and how they are practically supporting the body to rest, to soften. And that feels especially important to me as we're turning into winter, and yet the pace can be on for Christmas and sales and shopping and shows and stresses of trying to meet up with everyone. I've allowed more time and space this year to just be, to slow down a bit. My Qigong practice helps me to embody and live that in the mornings before the day can get quite pacey in this day and age. Lovely. So hopefully we're nice and open now. And for Wuji today, we're going to get into our wide-legged stance, or for those seated, sinking into your sits bones. And the start of the practice is very much this sinking. So imagine from your core, your tailbone, this is like the base. And we'll imagine just that sinking. Imagine you've got a tailbone sticking out beneath you, and that's settling into the soil beneath you. Imagine damp soil where you can easily put the seeds in. So imagine that softening, settling. Imagine that soil, that ground is holding you now. You know, and becoming more aware of our roots, the soles of our feet, the knees, the lower body. For those that are standing, you might start to feel some warmth in the tops of your legs. And then we'll bring awareness from the core up to the chest, standing nice and upright. Imagine a line of opposition between the crown and the tailbone, so we've got that nice straight line in alignment. Not forcing, we're just becoming aware, we're just inviting the body into this shape. Doesn't matter how it looks, it's all about how it feels now. So bringing awareness to the spine, we're inviting them shoulder blades to soften, to relax down the back body. And the crown of the head slightly lifted, chin slightly tucked. And finally, we can relax the stomach muscles, the abdomen, inviting that breath to land low and deep in the body. For those with more experience and practice, you can go to the four-sided breath here. For those newest to the practice, just inviting awareness of the sensations around your core, getting curious about how deep the breath can sink and soften in the body. Noticing that solid foundation, feeling the ground supporting you. Imagine it's not your feet necessarily that are holding you up, but it's the ground beneath you rising to hold you upright. Feeling held and supported. As we connect to the earth element is linked to community and support and nurture. So just notice how you are supported in this moment, the ground rising to meet you, gravity holding you in place. Notice how the breath is animating the body. And we settle here in Wuji, the highest state of nothing. And it's from a place of alertness, settled into the form like a tree, settling into our being and breathing. And you can imagine the palms slightly stretched like a drum skin. And again, it's just connecting to the ground beneath our feet, connecting to our earth centre, feeling the strength and the solidity of our bones, the structure from which we grow them solid foundations. We're returning to this Ben Gong, having journeyed a year now through our QiGong practice, those that have been with us from the start of the community. And we're going back now like the trees to deepen them roots, the foundations of our practice. And we'll just hold this for another 20 or 30 seconds. Those that practice this more regularly can pause the video there and experiment with how long it feels good to stand in Wuji, to be in that alert, empty, open space, inviting the mind to sink down and soften as the hands come slightly forward, ready for compress the pearl. So the elbows are slightly wider than the hands, and it's going to be the shoulders gently lifting up and down, the hands leading the movement. So the hands, the elbows, the shoulders all moving. One moving part, there's a slight lift at this point, those that are standing, and a slight sinking of the tailbone and the knees as we come down. So we're expanding that breath, bringing the arms up, and release the breath to centre down back at the core again. Slight lift, and you'll notice because the palms are slightly wider and the elbows slightly more than 90 degrees, they're slightly wider than the elbows when we lift to the top. And you can imagine that little finger, like that axe blade we've been talking about, imagine that pushing slightly out, the fingertips pushing slightly forward. And again, that's just bringing awareness to the hands, opening the meridians and the energy lines, the hands. And that's just another way of saying we're making space in the body, space for the fascia, the connective tissue. And in Chinese medicine, they say there's some energy lines going through there as well. Meet yourself where you're at, take what works, leave what doesn't. Inviting the body to circulate energy, breath, blood flow right the way around. As we come to flying hands, the hands trace up the body, shoulders stay nice and soft. It's the end of our kidney point, just below the collarbone. the wrist, it's the turn from the wrist at this point, the wrist turn upright, and then we sink. So again, we start at the abdomen, the womb space for women, for men, more just above the groin area. I'm just starting from wherever you consider that centre. Wrists come out and down. So we're rising from that lower centre. This is where the bodily energy is stored. Up to meet the chest and the heart, and balancing that back out by sinking back down. And again, those that are standing, you can have a slight lift in the tailbone. Again, that movement's all coming from the centre and the core, the rest of the body follows. Helping to balance the lower dantian, middle dantian, that bodily centre, the heart energy, the fire and the passion meets the mud, the earth, the soils. Imagine it all mixing. Passion inspiring the seeds that will grow in the spring. A couple more times. Final time. Lovely. And bring the hands, just take a breath, notice how you are. Just re-evaluating that Wuji stance. Tailbone slightly sunk, knees slightly bent, shoulders nice and soft and relaxed. We go to opening the chest. So the palms are facing the ground, and this time there's again a slight lift from the tailbone. So the arms come up and out to the sides. Again from the side. So there's a slight bend in the knee, slight sinking. We expand, we open, and then we sink and contract. So expand with the inhale. Imagining the breath rising from the abdomen to the chest like we started with our breath, and sinking back down. Don't worry if you don't feel it there yet, just giving the body permission, time, space. Over time, each practice will feel different. The body, the mind, the emotions, we're never in the same state when we come to the mat. So we're getting curious, aware of our body, and then just settling, softening, flowing. So again, then palms are lifting up and out. Opening the shoulders, the chest, and then it sinks back down. Final time. Lovely. This time we're going to go on to upholding the moon. So those that are seated, you can bend forward as well. Those that are standing, still the sink in the knees and the tailbone. And we're just going to lean forward. We're keeping the spine and the crown nice and aligned. So this, it's still a straight spine, the movement. And what we're doing is we're bringing the arms around. Those hands are stretched like drum skins to uphold the moon. So it's like we're scooping up, gathering. I breathe into the back body at this point, opening up the back of the spine. And then that movement's coming from the waist and the core, the shoulders to lift up, keeping my spine straight the whole time. And then the arms go. The awareness has gone from inward to outward. So we're scooping up, gathering, nourishing ourselves, our hands are facing our heart, and then sharing that love with the world. Soften. It's just lovely to just open to the front and back of the body, the shoulders. When our palms are connected, we're connecting the heart meridians, we're connected to the heart. The moon, very gentle, very nourishing. The moon also associated with water, emotion, so we're nourishing our heart, whatever we might have experienced this year, whatever emotions, we're gathering up some love. We're making space in the front and the back of the heart to breathe freely, to open up, to release, ready for a new year. Final time. Make it count, really stretch into that back body with the breath. Lovely, the palms come back to our wuji around our abdomen area, the tailbone's nice and sunk. And let's draw down the heavens. So we'll do this with one arm, centering. So you can imagine gathering in all the fruits of our practice, the calm, coming home to ourselves. Final time. And those that bring in the breath, I tend to breathe in to lift the arm, and exhale to let the arm sink down. This time we'll bring the hands over the abdomen, legs slightly closer together. Those that are seated, really noticing your tailbone, feeling the lines of opposition between the crown and the tailbone, feeling the tailbone sinking down, just intending that even if we're seated, imagining that tailbone sinking, imagine ourselves sinking into the earth, feeling held and supported, and then the upper body can rock and sway like a pine tree in the winds, free and flexible and open. You can just notice our body, scan through our body, starting in the crown of our head as a golden light washes down the crown of the head, soft, heavy, relaxed, as it washes down the forehead and the back of the head, softens, heavy, relaxed, that gold warm light washing down the jaw, the chin, the neck, soft, heavy, relaxed. Golden light sweeps down through the tops of the shoulders, the front and the back. The whole of the shoulders softening, relaxing, heavy. That golden light spreads down the biceps, the triceps, the elbows, down the forearms and wrists, through the palms to each individual finger, soft, heavy, relaxed. And that golden light now washes down the front of the chest and the back of the chest, right the way inside the chest and the lungs. The chest is heavy and soft and relaxed as that golden light washes down now through the spine. Each vertebrae softens, relaxing, opening. As it softens and washes down through the abdomen, the whole abdomen, internal organs, the space to soften, heavy, relaxed, sinking down. That wave washes through the glutes, through the tops of the legs and the backs of the legs down to the knees, soft, relaxed and heavy, as it washes down the shins and the calves, through those ankles, down the tops and the bottoms of the feet, soft, relaxed and heavy. And so now we're standing or seated, just like in Wuji, in that open, aware, alert space. And if you noticed any tension or tightness remaining, you can bring your hands to the area and close your practice by breathing the energy, the breath, the fruits of your practice. That slower, deeper breath that's giving you more energy, and you can share that with your body where you need it. Let your hands be intuitively drawn. Perhaps it's the shoulders, the abdomen, the heart. Just notice. You can imagine that golden light washing into that area, loosening, softening, opening. As it's heavy, it's relaxed, it's soft. And when you feel complete, you can imagine that light returning to the abdomen, bringing the fruits of our practice back to the core, to the centre, the place we start and end a practice. The final deep breath in. You can bring the hands to circle around the abdomen, just letting that wash through all those internal organs. Final deep breath. And release with an audible sigh. Namaste everyone. As ever, it's a pleasure to practice with you, and hopefully that helps you to soften and ease through into the winter, and wishing you grace with the overwintering this year. Namaste. We'll see you soon.